This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for the brilliant Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, the 6th round of what has turned out to be a brilliant season here at Road America in virtual Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, USA. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV, I'm Reese Gardner with Dan Yeaman with me in the comms box and Jay Kennedy handling production behind the scenes, bringing you these live pictures on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Dan, we're racing at Road America. What a fantastic track it is. One of the most historic circuits in the United States. It's one of the original 3 purpose-built road courses in the US.
Tried, tested, and true, as you say, indeed, and well, still plays host to endurance racing, IndyCar, and well, plenty others, I'm sure. Just a couple there to name some of what goes on at this circuit, indeed, and well, has a fantastic reputation worldwide as a result. Here it is on screen for us now. You can see there over 6.5 kilometers in length, just a touch over 4 miles if you convert that back to the old Freedom units, and well, I'll forever think the corner numbering scheme at the circuit is absurd. That's America for you. But nevertheless, some fantastic corners and flow through this circuit, and iconic names: Hurry Downs, the Carousel, the King, Canada Corner, just to name a few here, Reese, which will see plenty of action as a result in these Porsche 911 RSR GTE machines. Currently out on track and getting ready for the racing action here tonight.
Yeah, indeed. It's been an incredible sequence of races so far in this championship, but they've all run the same format. We'll be going through that format very shortly, right after we take a look at these championship standings. Gianni Lutzu currently in the lead with Tyson Broad, 778 points. So a reasonable gap between them as they enter the final few rounds of the season. But have a look at the battle for 4th. Mike Pepper and Brody Watts could very easily catch each other up. You can also see that Ray Oliver and Kyle Ridley, there's plenty of potential there for a switch up. And Edwards and Chrisdale only a point apart. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes here, Dan, depending on how the results go.
Yeah, that is very true indeed. Unfortunately, missed out a couple of rounds, at least joining you guys here in the commentary box to be able to bring you the action from last round in particular, 3 weeks back. But yeah, as you certainly say, there's a couple of gaps here and there, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how things play out there in and around 5th place there or thereabouts. Of course, if you haven't seen the action in Southern Cross Esports Championship Series so far this season, here's how things will play out for the racing action tonight. 20-minute opening sprint race after we get through qualifying here at the moment, Reese. That'll this is the first points on the board, and the 40-minute feature race, reverse the top 12 from that race 1 results, and require everyone to come to the pits for a compulsory change of 4 tyres no earlier than 5 minutes after the second race starts, and before 35 minutes has been completed in that second race.
Yes, and the drivers, of course, are all running a fixed setup in the series. The only thing they can change is the brake bias. So They can decide how much braking power is needed at the front and the rear of the car. At a track like Road America, you would say that a brake bias a bit towards the rear might be helpful because there's plenty of long braking zones around this place. At the same time, though, if your brake bias is too far to the rear, that means the car is very unstable under braking. You will have a more stable car if you have more front brake bias, but your car will take longer to slow down, and it's into corners like Canada corner at the end of this flat-out stretch here that we see Jesse Butler going through. Going to be some of the prime overtaking spots around this place. The track bears to the left just a little bit before you get hard on the brakes. In these Porsche 911 RSRs, they do have traction control, but they don't have anti-lock brakes, unlike their GT3 counterparts. So, got to be careful how you modulate the pedal.
Yeah, this certainly looks like a road car, but it's something more akin to a very much purpose-bred race car with some styling similarities. I mean, this car in particular, of course, is the 911 RSR here. I believe this model in particular on iRacing is the 2017 specification?
I believe so. 2018, maybe?
Yeah, one of those 2 years. Not quite the final iteration that ran. I believe it was the RSR 19 was the final update they made to the car. But getting back to the point here, this car, obviously, it was once upon a time a road-going Porsche 911, which, of course, is anyone who's familiar with cars and a car nut would know, classic 911 has the engine over the rear axle and hanging out the back of the car. But for this RSR generation that it was introduced to GTE competition at the end of the 2010s, I had to move the engine in front of that rear axle. So it is somewhat, as one of my friends has said, which is an oversized racing Cayman, as it were, for engine layout and configuration, as it were.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. And the Porsche 911 purists were, some of them certainly weren't too happy about the engine being moved forward, but Porsche needed to do it to increase the size of the diffuser. We've been going through the field here as they've been making their way around in the final minutes of the qualifying session. We've had 5 new additions to the series. Brody Watts has another Watts joining him in the form of Kirby Watts. We've also seen Ryan Howe going around the circuit as well. Ryan being a driver that has appeared on SimSpeed TV broadcasts in the past. We've also got Lachlan Capel, Chris Noble, and Michael Brennan. So a few familiar names joining up here with Southern Cross Esports towards the end of the season. There is Michael Brennan, currently in 18th place. His fastest time, a 2:04.196. By comparison, you see it at the top left, Brody Watts running a 2:02.3 for his fastest lap. And there is Kirby Watts in car number 67.
Kirby can do coming up the hill to end a lap. Got a couple of personal bests on the board as he come across the line, but no valid time there, so chance to go again here. Their 3rd lap in the session currently as clock is ticking down. Of course, being a heat race survey here for Southern Cross Esports, Reese. We've seen it here in this series so far all season long, but of course plenty of other series as well covered on SimSpeed. That qualifying timer will be a harder cut, so drivers will need to make sure if they want to get a time in the dying seconds, they give themselves just over 2 minutes before they cross the line for the final time to make sure it gets in and on the board before the checkered flag flies. As we check in with your championship leader, Gianni Lutsu, number 4 machine, currently sitting in E3 at the moment. One personal best on this particular sector as he's currently following one of the other 9.5 SimSport cars out on track. It's Sean McNamara ahead of him. 2:02.655 for Lutsu, unfortunately, out 2.5 tenths off his best in the session so far, but still time to keep going, of course. He'll get another 2, maybe, actually he'll get 3 laps in here if he's got the fuel and the tyres underneath him to keep pushing to the end of the session. Colburn there, 7.27 entry, currently back in 21st place, and looks like he'll stay there for the time being as well, Reece.
Indeed he will. Speaking of Sean McNamara, towing Gianni Lutsu along, McNamara improved on that lap that we were seeing, up to 4th place, a 2:02.63. McNamara currently got a little bit of draft himself here. I believe that's Michael Thompson just up ahead of him, coming right onto the bumper, and Thompson immediately jumping out of the way there to let McNamara and Lutsu by as these guys try to make their way around to get another couple of laps in. Now, I'd be interested to see what kind of strategy drivers would be going for, how they're going to tackle this qualifying session, because Road America is a track that is mostly straights, so the tyres aren't put through a whole lot around the course of a single lap, but the track temperature is 46 degrees Celsius out there, so definitely in the depths of summer track temps there. So I think the tyres will become very easy to overheat over the course of the night. They probably only be getting a few good laps out of those tyres, maybe only 2 or so.
I think that's probably a good point to make there. Front tyres in particular should be getting a workout here, given the number of higher heavy braking zones. Turn 1, turn 5, turn 12, kind of the corner, all in particular being spots where drivers will be really pushing the limits with how much front end grip they've still got underneath them. Whereas you get into that middle sector from the hurry down through the carousel and the kink, you will be working for the most part, it's all the left side tyres will be on the work there as well. So that left rear might also be under a bit of stress, given there's a lot of right-hand turns, given the clockwise nature of the course. As we check in here with Joe Capone, the 111 entry, currently sitting towards the back of the field in 28th place. Can he improve on a 204.9? Does put an extra 10th in to go 204.8, but no places gained at this point. He'll have time for one more lap there as we check in with Carl Ridley, number 27 entry here, currently outside the top 10 race, and setting up for what should be his final run here in the session, given the time on the board. So he's going to make this one stick if he wants to improve on his best time at the moment. 202.9 puts him at just over 6/10 off the race leaders and already outside the top 10. It's looking like a nice and competitive field at the front end of the proceedings this evening.
Yeah, and it's a big field as well for this round. Grid numbers have been dropping ever so slightly through the mid-season, but there's been a real kick as to new entries to the championship. We've got 34 drivers, I believe, out there at the moment. There's Chris Noble crossing the line, and I think that's going to be him starting his final hot lap there. And Noble is certainly a driver that we know has some talent. He competed up the top in Aussie Car Formula V, as well as a couple other series that we broadcast on SimSpeed TV, so not surprised to see the 122 up in the top 10 here. Ross Fallon, meanwhile, 166. Let's see if he can improve on 24th. 204.7 time to beat. How about a 204 flat, just about, only 200ths away. That only gains him 1 place, though, over Michael Brennan, which might be a little bit frustrating for him, but it shows just how competitive the field is all the way through. Oh dear, Coburn going a little bit too deep into the final corner. Very difficult to line that one up, and unfortunately, that's probably going to put paid to the end of this session. He won't be able to get going in time to get another lap in. Zani just making it through there to start his final lap. He'll probably cross the line with mere 10ths of a second to spare.
Yeah, and I think Anthony Jewell has just missed out on a chance to get another one on the board. He might be lucky, but we'll have to wait and see. So everyone across the line here on out, consider this their final chance to put laps on the board. Joe Capone, they're not going to improve. Alexander Newt was back in 21st, and you saw him improve for him, but let's check out the man in P3, Gianni Lutsu. Final time across the line. An invalidated lap, unfortunately, he will not improve on P3. Brody Watts, a provisional pole sitter, too wide at the final turn. That will have to force an abandonment of that one there. But he comes into the lane with a 10th to his name as Carl Ridley jumps up into P4 there on the timing tower as we check in with Clint Harvey. Number 10 machine here is currently sitting down in 16th place. Looking to improve on a 203.3 as he comes up the hill. 2 personal bests to his name on this lap race. 203.159 is valid, is an improvement. But I believe that's kept him...
only place gained.
Indeed, 1 place up there. Quite right, indeed. So he'll be starting no better than 15th place for race 1 tonight. Justin McLean, the number 6 machine, just ahead of Clint Harvey, currently on the board. Across the line he goes. He improves his time as well, but once again, a driver not able to move up any spots. Just in behind Mike Pepper in the number 3 machine. Sean McNamara across the line won't get a chance to improve his time. Does Tyson Board have something? He has a personal best Sector 4, fastest Sector 3 of anyone in qualifying here, Reese. This might be just enough if he's had the first couple of sectors. 202.187. Is it valid? It's good. It goes to pole position.
Amazing job there from Tyson Broad, getting pole position at the very last opportunity. Fantastic stuff. Ross Thalen, unfortunately, abandoning his lap. Anthony Jewell and Alex Zani, meanwhile, just making their way out of the final corner. They've only got 7 seconds left on the timer. Will they be able to make it to the line before the session ticks over? Oh, God, they're so close. Oh, I don't think so. I think they only just... Oh, Jewell managed to get it in. He leapt up from 18th to 4th place with as the timer hit 0. My goodness. What an end of the session there for Anthony Jewell. Man, okay, so that's really hyped me up here for this race, Dan. It's time to go through the grid as we remind you here of the format. The first race of the night, 20 minutes, and it's going to be an out-and-out sprint. It's headed up by Tyson Broad and Brody Watts, Gianni Lutsu and Anthony Jewell on the second row. Jewell just getting that lap in right at the end. Kyle Ridley and Sean McNamara will round out the top 6. In 7th place, it's going to be series debutant Ryan Howe with Trevor Hearn alongside him. Alex Zani and Jesse Butler round out the top 10. Then it's Adrian Vlock and also another new driver, Chris Noble, in 12th.
13th place tonight's going to go to series organizer Cameron Edwards. He's got Mike Pepper, another series regular alongside him there to round out the 7th row for race number 1. Justin McLean and Clint Harvey sharing row number 8 has Ben Breyer and Ray Oliver behind them there on the 9th row of the grid for race number 1 tonight. 19th place goes to Neil Woodburn. He's got one of our other debutants, Kirby Watts, alongside him for 20th place. 21st goes to Alex Newton with 22nd to Ashley Dodgson there in the 88 machine. Ross Thalen, starting out at 23rd for race 1 tonight, has got 24th place alongside another one of our debutants in the hands of Michael Brennan there in the 89 machine.
Nathaniel Coburn and Michael Thompson are going to share the 13th row. David Hughes and Franz Estebar and the Perth Fork Trucks entry going to start on row 14. Then we got Joe Capone and Craig Spencer rounding out the top 30. The final 2 times set by Dean Hunt and John Lee right at the back of the field. Justin, Keegan and Ryan are your race control for this round thanks to 24/7 Sim Services. They'll be handling everything across the night and will be bringing out the manual safety car if so needed. They've got the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4s on standby in case there's a big enough incident out on track to warrant it. And we're going for a full formation lap here at Road America, Dan, so we've got plenty of time to talk about how this race might go for these drivers. A very big field, as we've said, of 32 cars. I should correct myself from before, setting times in qualifying. And it's the first time the series been over 30 cars in quite some time, which I'm super happy about. Love this series, and it definitely deserves all the success that it's been getting. But it's going to make things interesting on lap 1 into those heavy braking zones, particularly down into turn 5.
Turn 1, of course, it's a fairly straight shoot, of course, into that first corner, and not even very right-handed to boot, but more than expected. Drivers trying to also potentially further on back, try and maximise the entry there. Some miscommunication as to what the play is on lap 1. Sort of get dicey. A little short shoot here to turn 3 as well. Could also throw up some drama, but indeed, turn 5, the first major braking zone as they bring the cars down to the slowest corner on the circuit. Beat out turn 8 by a fair bit, and as well as turn 12, the other 2 somewhat heavy braking zones at Road America when it comes to the also slowest corners, I should say, in particular here. So we're on the way down to turn 5 now through the Maurienne Sweep, which gets to turn corner number. Less Americans in their track marshalling uses for corner numbers. And in fact, while we're on that pace, let's bring up the map here once again, Reece, and maybe talk through a couple of your particular highlight spots on the circuit here to look out for tonight.
Well, turn 5, definitely one of them, and then they're heading up under the bridge here to go to turn 6, and will make their way up onto the Hurry Downs. This very fast right-hand kink. It's going to be very difficult to run side by side through there, and it's easy to run a car off the road if you're not too careful. Then through the hurry downs down to turn 8. Another very heavy braking zone, but this corner is quite bumpy in the middle, and the drivers will have to be very careful not to put down the power too hard. These cars do have traction control, but if you lose grip and don't recover it very well, traction control will kick in and exacerbate the slide. And you see them making their way through the carousel now, one of the most iconic corners in American motorsport, an incredibly long right-hand turn. Some drivers will double apex it, some will stick to the inside the whole way through. Multiple lines through there, and they are all just as quick. And then the kink flat out in these cars. It's going to be a fantastic sight to see the field go through here on lap 1, but you want to make sure that you're in single file going through there, because as you can see, there's not much runoff on the outside.
It's too hard through the kink, and given the fixed setup that we mentioned earlier, it's a high downforce configuration, which certainly will give the drivers some confidence through those faster corners like the hurry downs and the kink. I reckon we might see some drivers gamble on some too wide fighting and try and at least hold their position around the outside of the kink if they're put in that position. You hope it's not going to be on lap 1. Give themselves a chance to warm the cars up and have a confidence underneath as we head up the hill towards the front stretch. And then remind me again if we're in the control of the best
time to get things going for round 6 of Southern Cross Esports, and the control is waiting for the green flag, or just about to go. There he is. That is a bit of a jump there from Tyson Broad, getting a little bit of extra momentum across the line as the green flag waves, already side by side for second place. Brody Watts might lose out here to Gianni Lutsu, who's trying to chase down that championship lead, and they are through cleanly at the front at least. Let's see what the rest of the field is going to fare like as they go through these couple of turns. It looks nice and clean for the time being. Tyson Broad leading by half a second as they make their way out of turn 3. Little bit of side-by-side action here. The 727 of Nathaniel Coburn losing out to Joe Capone. Alexani passing Jesse Butler for 9th place, coming down the back straight through the Moraine sweep. And oh no, it's a big lock up there for Tyson Broad. He goes straight off the track. He manages to enter back on cleanly, but that's a big loss there, and looks like there's been a crash at the back.
There has indeed. Justin McLean in the number 6, unfortunately, has been collected. Clint Harvey in the number 10, gone around with him. Ray Oliver in the 224, also involved. And Justin McLean, Ben Breyer in the 58 also has picked up some damage. And, well, there you go. Back of the field is a little bit unsettled by all that. Look at it on the replay here. Thanks to Virtual Racing School. You can see here, Tyson Broad, completely unforced error down into turn 5. And then, oh dear, diving in late goes Clint Harvey. Gets into the side of McLean, and then more contact as a result of what happened there.
Safety car.
There we go, indeed. All cars have recovered, but the safety car has been deployed by race control, and there we go, message in the chat to confirm that. So Keegan Sutton Baker in the 00 Porsche Cayman GT4 is standing by as the field makes their way down to Canada Corner, and will hopefully receive that safety car in the not too distant future. This will, of course, chew up some of the time here, and while we were estimating a 10-lap race based on those qualifying times reached, but this will certainly take us back to probably 9 laps, if not 8, depending on how long we keep the safety car out here, because still got a ways to go when it comes to picking up the field, because they're only just coming into the final turn just now, and the safety car is waiting down the other end of the stretch, and we'll see how slow or quick the safety car lap here is.
Well, it's a long circuit here at Road America, 6.5 Ks in length, so I think there's a chance we might only see a single lap here under safety car conditions. Again, don't quote me on that. We'll have to wait and see. But the running order as it is at the moment, Gianni Lutsu, Brody Watts and Anthony Jewell, your top 3. Tyson Broad managing to recover back to 4th place after his unforced error on lap 1. And it's looking to me like a few big changes further back in the field. Michael Brennan, who started in 24th, is now up to 17th place for his first race in the series. That is a pretty good start.
It is indeed. As we see now, the field has been collected by the safety car. And we can now get a chance to take a breather and reset. You see there, that was Michael Brennan, who's made up some good spots here off the start. In fact, there's a handful of drivers who've all made up about 5 to 6 spots each off the start of this one here. In and around now that 15th place. So 14th, in fact, 14th on back is actually a handful of guys who have all made up some excellent spots. But your biggest mover, that's going to go to Craig Spencer there in the 37 machine. And props to Director Jay Kennedy. He's actually picked up on that one there before I could finish the sentence. Up, well, according to iRacing, up 11 spots, but going off of the overlays here, 10 spots for the 37 machine. And the reason that is because we've lost the 740 of Adrian Vlock, who was meant to start this race in P11 race, but unfortunately disconnecting before we got that pace lap underway here.
Yeah, very unfortunate there for Adrian, the very embattled driver in this series. Hopefully he'll be able to make it back in for future rounds of the series, because unfortunately he has decided to disconnect himself from the race server. Go to another VRS replay here just to get another view of what happened here at the rear of the field. Something going wrong. This is under safety car. A bit of a spin, I think. No? Oh, a huge checkup, actually. Look at this. Oh, dear. Thank goodness there wasn't much contact there at the back of the field. That's one of the things you've got to consider under safety car conditions. You can't afford to go too quickly, because the field concertinas. It's like being in a traffic jam.
Yeah, you do have to be very careful of that. Safety car is currently pacing at a steady 95 odd kilometers per hour. No sign yet the safety car is coming back into the pits at the end of this one. So we'll see how things go, because this might just mean we get back to 8 laps even potentially as the clock continues to tick away here. And well, a chance for Tyson Broad to have another go at that, because, well, he would have certainly been having to pick back up the momentum after sending it off at turn 5, and, well, has given a free pass back to Gianni Lutsu, who now has the race lead, and, well, he'll take all the safety car laps he can get here to minimise the amount of time he has to be on the defensive foot. He's at the front of the field. And nope, safety car is coming away from the field now into the penultimate turn here, so we're going to go back to racing at the end of this lap, it looks like here, Reese. Yep, safety car picks up speed out of the final turn, and we'll see destination pit lane in the second for the double O, indeed. So we are going to get back to racing here at the end of lap 2. Race now in the hands of Gianni Lutsu in the number 4 machine. What can he do here off the restart?
Championship leader Gianni Lutsu, second place in the championship Tyson Broad, making that mistake on lap 1, back into 4th. And Lutsu decides to go early, and have a look at that. Lutsu's teammate Anthony Jewell trying to cover off the advance from Tyson Broad. Little bit of gamesmanship there, and teammates working together. He's going to be defensive versus Tyson on the way into the first turn, and it's all about who's latest on the brakes. There we go, Jewell defending that position well, but a big oversteer moment there on the exit of turn 1. He's going to protect the inside from Broad again, just trying to stymie the advance of Lutsu's closest championship rival. But Broad manages to hook up the exit of turn 3 very nicely. This could be a move into turn 5, but once again, he is going to be on the outside. Looked like a clean start throughout the rest of the field. Lutsu being harassed by Brody Watts for second place up there. But what can Tyson Broad do into turn 5? He's going to have to try and hold the outside, and almost driven off the road there by Anthony Jewell. Side by side. Oh, goodness gracious. Take it easy, boys. Anthony Jewell losing third place to Sean McNamara, who's really taken advantage of that incident.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing to see that there. Broad hanging around the outside of turn 5. Probably had the rights to a cars with there on the exit, but Jewell fires it in deep to defend the spot, and certainly looking to play that team game there for Gianni up front. And, well, as a result, championship implications right there as a result of that action. So back in P10, not great for this opening race, but we'll put him towards the front of the field if he doesn't move back forwards through the cars ahead for the start of race 2. Remember that top 12 will be inverted. So P10 right now puts him in P3 as Michael Thompson and the triple twos around on the exit of the carousel. Unfortunately, he's now got some serious damage and a smooth gun engine here as we keep our eyes on the lead group of cars as they head up through Canada Corner. But a replay, thanks to Virtual Racing School, we'll get our eyes on Thompson here in the 222 race.
So on the outside, coming into Carousel, let's see what happened on the exit. Oh, a little bit of a technical issue there for him, and looks like the car just got unsettled for a moment, and then he got a helping around, and that is a big incident there. Huge crash to the rear, and it's going to result in some pretty major damage, and he's making his way back to the pits. Meanwhile, further up the front, on the Mindset cars, the number 27 of Kyle Ridley trying to get past Trevor Hearn here, or trying at least to hold on to as many positions as he can. You see Zani and Butler almost going side by side there, and a big oversteer moment for, I think, that was Dyson McGraw on the way through.
Yeah, pardon me, it was contact between Zani and Butler. Unsettles the 69 Racecraft Simulations car. Also checks up Butler in the Mark 1 Esports entry. So Tyson Broad gets one spot there off of Butler into turn 5, so up to P9 for the driver of the number 7 machine. Now his eyes on Zani for P8, and then keep working his way forward onto the rear of Kyle Ridley, who's now lost a spot to Trevor Hearn on this lap as they make their way through Hurry Downs to turn number 8 here for that next braking zone. On board with Ross Stallin in the 166 machine, currently riding in 20th place there. Recent, unfortunately, a frown on the splitter of that Porsche RSR there. Unfortunately, has picked up a decent amount of damage there, and now has Dean Hunt and Ashton Dawson just in behind. They'll be looking to pressure him as we check back in further up the field. The man who sits in provisional pole for race 2 is Mike Pepper there in the Mindset number 3. But Cameron Edwards keeping him honest there in the number 46 and 13th right behind as they head to Canada Corner here on lap number 4.
Edwards, former events manager at Wanneroo Raceway, part of the WA Sporting Car Club, and currently works at our series sponsor V-Race Experience. Just up ahead, Tyson Broad. He's trying to work his way back through these guys on the back of Kyle Ridley, as there goes Butler. Just caught the grass on the outside of the final corner, and the Mark 1 driver is going to have to make his way back on as cleanly as possible, but in the middle of the final corner, not the best place to do it. So he is going to fall all the way back to 29th place. And that is pretty much the last running car on track, because Michael Thompson is way far behind, having just gotten his damage repaired. Goodness gracious, this has been a dramatic race at Road America for the time being. Ross Thalen still side by side here, now with Dean Hunt, trying to work his way back a little further forward. Easy does it, everybody, and Thalen wide in turn 3. Hunt will take that position and move up into 19th. It's a proper gaggle of cars here for the last position in the top 20. Looks like Ashley Dodgson might try and pick up this position from Hunt if possible. Meanwhile, you've got the trio of Hughes, Harvey, and Thalen behind, and Clint Harvey once again trying the inside line through turn 5, and he's not going to be too happy with that, as David Hughes. It's exactly the same thing that Clint Harvey did on lap 1 at turn 5.
Oh yeah, it's an absolute shocker of a moment. Once again, the number 10 machine finding contact on the way into turn 5 and sends around the 75 of David Hughes, as you said there. We've got him going once again, but they both trickle back down the order some more. So back towards the front of the field again, Reese, and again this fight for now P11 as a result of Jesse Butler making that mistake at final turn last time around. It promotes, of course, everyone up a spot there. So Cam Edwards now into that reverse grid, or that reverse inverted pole, I should say, for race 2. Now puts Mike Pepper up into 11th, and they're trying to chase down the 122 Chris Noble, Alpha Racing Team, one of our new drivers here in the series this week, who in turn is trying to pressure Kyle Ridley, who's still trying to stick with Tyson Broad as he is looking to bridge the gap to Alexani up in P7.
On board, looking from the back of Kyle Ridley, you see Chris Noble trying to line him up here. A good slipstream down the front straight. They run a pretty high downforce fixed setup here in Southern Cross Esports, so the drivers are just touching 260 clicks as they make their way down to turn 1. Let's see what Noble can do down the next long straight. Tell you what, this is a very close fight, and they'll be rapidly losing time to Tyson Ward just up ahead. Meanwhile, side by side between Hearn and Howe, and Ryan is definitely not willing to let Hearn alongside him, but that's where Trevor goes. And they'll be side by side on the way down to turn 5. Much later on the brakes is Ryan Howe. He's going to try and defend this position. They give each other a tap in the middle of the corner, and another tap on the exit for good measure. Hearn, obviously a bit unhappy with how things turned out for him, but I would say that was pretty fair game.
Strong attack there on the way in for turn 5, pinching Hearn to the apex of the corner there, and gets away with a rub for good measure. So I think fair enough in the grand scheme of things as they keep on racing. And well, how about this? While the action's been going on behind, the top 3 have started to space out quite decently. And still nothing from race control, I don't think, unless they dismissed the incident with Anthony Jewell and Tyson Board there on the restart. So I didn't quite hear incident for that one there. Meanwhile, indeed, race control has been busy reviewing earlier incidents, going back to lap 1. Clint Harvey picking up the black flag for that incident at the start of the race down at turn 5. So unfortunately for him, that's probably going to be setting a bit of a precedent that will apply on top of that for good measure. We'll have to wait and see if they get around to that later race incidents. We'll keep our eyes here on Chris Noble as he continues to keep the pressure on. As he can here, out of the final turn and up the hill once again to start lap 7 in this race here.
Well, Clint Harvey's not going to get an opportunity to serve that black flag, because shortly after that second incident at turn 5, he escaped back to the pits and he's retired from the race. So I don't know what the deal is going to be, whether or not he'll have to serve the black flag in race 2 or not. We'll have to wait and see. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on this fight for 8th, 9th, 10th, etc. And up the inside goes Chris Noble. Now up into the top 9, putting a very nice move on Kyle Ridley at turn 3. You can see that Tyson Broad in the drop bear car is already starting to skate away from these guys, and fancying another look up the inside of Noble is Ridley. They'll be fighting here well hard for this last position in the top 9. Can Noble hold on around the outside of turn 5? He's going to give it a red hot go, and a little bit of a compromise line there for Ridley, but he's going to have the inside here for this next left-hander. Oh, wow. Noble able to hold on around the outside and give himself the inside line for Hurry Downs. But, oh, nearly making contact, and off the road goes Carl Ridley. Mike Pepper says, thank you very much, mate. That's going to be a free position for me. Pepper into the top 10.
Yes, and, oh, look, off wide, though, coming out of turn number 8. Chris Noble's going to drop on back in behind them here. So Mike Pepper, the biggest winner of the group, goes up to P9 from P11 in the space of 3 turns there. It looked like a bit of contact between Noble and Ridley on the way through Hurry Downs from what I was seeing there, Reese, and I think pushing him a little bit wide there on the attack, and they're still going at it down into Canada corner. This time it's going to be Noble's turn to be on the outside of Ridley, but space given by Ridley allows Noble to put the foot down on the way up through turn 13. He'll get the spot off the 27 machine.
I've just seen a huge crash at the edge of the carousel. Nathaniel Coburn coming together here.
Oh dear, yeah.
Who on earth ran into him? That was Ben Breyer. Oh goodness, both cars almost destroyed.
Oh, look at that, Coburn all by himself, and
oh no.
Coburn's car unfortunately turned into a launch ramp for Breyer in the 58 machine. Both Porsches now severely damaged, and well, we're coming towards the end of this race here, Reese. Not much time to call a safety car if they're choosing. You just see here, unfortunately for Coburn, has just dipped a wheel in the dirt by himself, and then no time for Breyer to respond to the car sliding back across onto the racing line. More trouble back out on track though. Joe Capone, unfortunately, having made up spots at the start, has picked up some substantial damage to the left rear corner, I have to say, as they make their way down into that was out of turn 1 there. But up towards the front of the field, it's been busy. We were showing a replay before we switched to that one with Coburn and Breyer of Ryan Howe in the 125 machine, making a massive hash of the run down into Canada corner, I think it was, going off out wide. It's promoted Tyson Board up to P7 and brought Trevor Hearn in behind them. So in fact, Trevor Hearn and Ryan Howe gotten together, Reese. It's now promoted Alexander to P5, and Tyson Board is in a battle group because he was losing the train thanks to the fact they were all towing each other earlier on. But now he's got a chance here. 1.5 laps to go according to my timing, and that checks out with the clock remaining on screen. So he's got a chance to get up into P6. Maybe it's a pretty slim chance, but P5 could be on if something goes wrong for Zani here on the run down in the final parts of this race.
Let's have a look then. Broad in the slipstream of Trevor Hearn. Not far up enough to make a move into Canada corner, but Zani going a little bit deep. Yep, a little bit deep there for Alex Zani. Could offer a chance for Trevor Hearn at the final corner, but I think he'd do well to wait for the slipstream down the start-finish straight. Oh, offline on the way in for Zani, and that checked up Hearn just a little bit. This could be a free spot here for Tyson Broad as the white flag flies for these drivers. Final lap of the race. This is going to be Broad's last chance to try and recover from what was a torrid race start. Zani's going to try and block both of them on the way into turn one. Hearn's going to switch to the outside, and they make contact. And Zani given a big helping of opposite lock, and Tyson Broad's just going to try and sail through. And have a look at Ryan Howe. He's going to try and make up places too. Into turn three they come. Contact between Zani and Broad, and contact between Howe and Hearn. This is going off.
It's getting busy, but seeing some good patience from most of these guys here when it comes to figuring out, and well, gets through at turn 3 to Tyson Broad, but look at the toe they get down the hill. In turn 5, he's going to have to white line the inside here as Zani wants to around the outside. He's going to get a bit of a nudge from Ryan Howe into the corner. Broad is able to slide across though, cut that one off, but has to go back to the inside for turn 6 as the run up there pretty even. And then Trevor Hearn, they get nose to tail through to turn 6. Now, get the run through the hurry downs here at turn 7. Set yourself up and run the normal line through turn 8. And hope the driver's in center dive. Looks like it's going to be all calm and normal for now, because the run is all about through the carousel and down to Canada for the final place there. And look how close Zani is to the back of Broad. This will be our final fight. Ryan Howe there looks a little bit far off the back of Trevor Hearn, but never say never, it seems, with these guys. They're pushing to the limits, and the toe is substantial, of course, with this downforce configuration. Through the kink, they come on board with Tyson Broad. Look at the speed differential just from that slipstream. He's going to have a nose ahead under brakes into Canada corner, but the outside line for Alex Zani can Broad stick it in deep. A tiny bit of netcode nudge there. It means that he's going to unsettle the 69 racecraft entry here and give Trevor Hearn that chance for the final corner here, Reese.
Yeah, well, who's going to get it done? We know that Gianni Lutsu's going to get it done up the front. He's going to take the victory here, unpressured there. But who is going to win the battle here? Howe and Hearn have come together, and Trevor Hearn sent off the circuit, and he's going to drop way down the order, and hopefully he'll be able to recover, but he might just, could he be in 12th? No, he won't. Alexander Newton's going to sail through at the last moment to get the race to pole position. 14th at the end there for Trevor Hearn after contending for a top 5 spot, but there's Alex Newton, your race to pole sitter. Wow, what a dramatic race that was. We barely gave any airtime at all to the top 3. There was no battling there. It was all about what was happening behind. We'll take another look here at what happened. Oh no, Hearn, he did it all by himself. That is tragic, just dipping a wheel into the gravel off the final corner, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, that is a shame. You can see Zani a little bit narrow through the corner, and Hearn just opens the steering up and just gets a little bit of the dirt in the wrong spot as you're trying to get the power down, car unsettled, and tries valiantly to recover, but unfortunately for Trevor, it wasn't quite enough. So your provisional results from race number 1 here. Not sure if we'll have any post-race decisions that will take effect, because to be honest, I didn't quite hear if anything between 28 of Anthony Jewell and the 7 of Tyson Broad, but I feel like we might need to see something or hear about that, because I feel like that was probably needing a review there. We'll have to wait and see, but let's walk through these results as they are anyways. Gianni Lutsu there will take the race win, 1.7 seconds clear of Brody Watts at the line. Sean McNamara makes his way up into P3 there quite nicely. In fact, third, and well, she picks up 3 spots, I should say, from starting on 6th, 3 seconds back in that position for him there. And then Anthony Jewell sort of alone there in P4, 8 seconds off the race lead. Then Tyson Broad leading the train home there in P5 with Alex Zani and Ryan Howe following him across the line. Mike Pepper only another second back there. It was almost brought into the fight, it seems, towards the end of that one there, Reese, but not 8th place for number 3 will have to do. Chris Noble next across the line in the 1-2-2 machine in 9th, and Kyle Ridley slots back in there to 10th place at the end of race number 1.
11th place, Cameron Edwards and Alex Newton getting the position right at the final hurdle there to gain race 2 pole. Michael Brennan finishes in 13th place, and Trevor Hearn recovering to go to 14th at the end. Neil Woodburn, Craig Spencer, Kirby Watts, Ashley Dodgson, Dean Hunt and Ross Thalen will round out your top 20.
The first in race 1 tonight went to Joe Capone in the 111 machine, just ahead of David Hughes there in the 75, recovering to 22nd place. Ahead of Justin McLean there in 23rd. Unfortunately, a bit of a rough and tumble for the number 6 in that race as well. Ahead of the 349er, Jesse Butler, another driver that we were looking to see at the front of the field. Unfortunate mistake for him at the final turn, unable to make further inroads at the end of that race. Franz Esterbauer, rough run for him. I saw an incident solo towards the end of the race. 25th will be the finishing place in the number 80 machine. Ahead of John Lee, though, in the 33 machine there, who actually just gets across the line before Michael Thompson, the 222. So a scrap to the line between those two guys for 26th and 27th, respectively. Ben Breyer able to get home in 28th, despite the damage to his car, and stay on the lead lap for good measure. And then Nathaniel Colburn and Clint Harvey, your drivers, 1 lap down tonight. And then it was Ray Oliver, the 31st and final finisher in the race, 6 laps short of the finish there, Reese.
They only managed to complete 5 laps in that one. Remember, we were projecting 10 laps if it was green all the way through. We'll see what happens in race 2. But before that, we've got to take a moment to thank our sponsors here at Southern Cross Esports. V8 Drive Day Perth, of course, the title sponsor of this series. Perth's greatest driving experience, offering rides and hot laps in specially prepared V8 race cars around Perth's Wanneroo Raceway. You can be the passenger or the driver in the closest thing you can get to what Australia's best do every weekend. You can visit them and book your session at v8driveday.com.au. West Australian Automotive Equipment specialises in everything you need for your workshop, from hand tools to car hoists and everything in between. Better yet, they deliver Australia-wide. You can call them on 9303 9068 or head to automotiveequipmentwa.com.au. Meanwhile, Pip Allen over at Word of Mouth Signs works to provide the best in signs and graphics, doing everything from vinyl wraps for cars, vans, premises, and much more, to laser engraving and graphic design. No job is too small. Head over to wordofmouthsigns.com.au or call on 0400 551 555. V-Race Experience is Perth's best full-motion simulator experience, located in the heart of Osborne Park. They use Motum simulators, professional hardware, and class-leading virtual reality goggles so you can race like a pro and get fully immersed. To find out more, go to vrace.com.au. Meanwhile, speaking of modem simulation, their unique patented True Motion technology delivers 6 degrees of freedom in a fully immersive VR environment. They deliver simulation solutions across Australia and internationally, working with many leading brands. To learn more about them, head to motemsimulation.com. And of course, tonight's racing would not be possible without 24/7 Sim Services, who are handling race control tonight. They're an independent provider of live race control, rulebooks, officiating, and more on all sim racing platforms. You can check them out at 24/7 Sim Services. That's 247simservices.com. Well, not long left now in the warm-up session, just a minute or so and change. This is going to be an interesting one, Dan. We've got, of course, the inverted top 12. We've got our compulsory pit stop for 4 tyres. And crucially, Tyson Broad's going to be starting ahead of Gianni Lutsu. And he's not going to have too many cars back to Anthony Jewell either, so I don't think he'll be in much danger of what happened to him in lap 1 in race 1.
Well, we'll see, and we'll walk you through the grid in a minute, but he's starting in P8, which will put him on the outside to turn 1 on the 4th row. Anthony Jewell is going to be just behind him on the inside of the 5th row, so that will potentially be could be a potential for a repeat. In fact, Tyson will find himself in a racecraft sandwich with Alex Zani alongside him for the race start here in the second one. And, certainly we'll be hoping to make some clean inroads and try and get through the guys who are starting ahead of him for this one. But Well, yeah, not only has he got Jewel and Zani directly around him, he's also got Alexander Newton, who'll be up the front of the field for the start of this one. Another one of the racecraft cars. So it's looking like a 4v1 here, somewhat for Tyson Brewer. He's going to have his work cut out if he wants to try and make some inroads here and turn around the deficit that will have extended in that opening race here. So confirming your grid for race number 2, Reese. Invert the top 12, puts the number 13 of Alexander Newton on pole. Cameron Edwards alongside him starting in P2. Kyle Really will get the chance to start from P3 for this one here in the number 27 machine. He's got Chris Noble to his outside in the 1-2-2. And then it'll be Mike Pepper and Ryan Howe sharing the third row tonight. And then back to that important, well, I think so into the important spots here, championship-wise, as well as, of course, with the race results. Alexani in P7 inside of Tyson Broad in P8. And then Anthony Jewell in the 28 alongside Sean McNamara for the row number 5, and then your top 2 in race 1, Brody Watts inside of Gianni Lutsu on row number 6 here.
Michael Brennan, everyone on back is going to start where they finished in race 1. Brennan looking to move ever further forward, nearly cut his grid spots in half in race 1. Trevor Hearn's going to be looking for some redemption, starting out of 14th. Neil Woodburn in 15th, and Craig Spencer joining him on the 8th row as the pace car pulls away. Kirby Watts and Ashley Dodgson are going to start 17th and 18th. They'll both be looking to make up a few more spots as well, with Dean Hunt and Ross Stalin on the 10th row of the grid. Joe Capone and David Hughes will start on row 11. Justin McLean and Jesse Butler in 23rd and 24th, and both of those drivers will be looking for redemption too.
They will indeed. Butler perhaps more so than anyone going off of qualifying versus their race 1 result tonight. But let's get through the rest of the field here. Franz Esterbauer will start out of 25th place. He's got John Lee alongside him in 26th. Michael Thompson, after a couple of spins, we're hoping to improve on a 27th place start for this one. He's got Ben Breyer alongside him in 28th, a chance to reset for the 58 machine, but a bit further back than where his qualifying pace would have him, given he started race 1 in 17th place. And then Nathaniel Colburn and Clint Harvey rounding out your top 30. And then it should be Ray Oliver, the last car in the server, who will take to the grid here. 31 out of our 32 drivers. Actually, no, Ray Oliver's not taking the grid at this stage, Reece. So we have lost 2 drivers to various things tonight. So 30 cars taking the formation lap here for the feature race, Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, round number 6 at Road America.
Presented, of course, by V8 Drive Day Perth, along with many others. A reminder of the format here. Compulsory pit stop for 4 tyres, and you end up losing quite a bit here at Road America because it's a very long pit lane and a high average speed in race conditions down the front straight. So you've got to be careful about when you decide to take that pit stop. The drivers will be on their 3rd lap, all things staying the same if there's not an early safety car before they can come into the pits, and they'll have to do it at least 3 laps from the end as well. That's the window that we are working with here, with a lap of around 2 minutes in these Porsche 911 GTE machines.
Oh! We've had trouble into the carousel on the formation lap.
Oh,
Anthony Jewell, Michael Brennan.
Oh, okay.
What on earth is going on? Yeah, it's also involved Tyson Broad.
That's Orkies. So let's have
hardware
a look
failure.
there.
Massive hardware failure for Anthony Jewell. On board with 28 if we can. Coming out of turn number 8. Watch the steering snap hard right. Hard left, sorry.
Oh dear. This is something that you see happening in sim racing quite a bit. Oh man. Yeah, when your wheel disconnects, the car just goes hard left, and that is a big issue there. Some contact on the formation lap that's already going to be putting a few drivers out of sorts. We'll have to wait and see how that affects proceedings here for now. But Tyson Broad has managed to keep going. He looks to be damage-free, and looks like the majority of drivers have managed to just get away with that. That's really unfortunate for Anthony Jewell. It would have to be a bit embarrassing as well. I can only imagine being in the position of a driver who has that happen to them on the formation lap and ending up taking out a couple of guys that you really didn't want to make contact with at that stage. Oh well, we're going to get things off to a start here. It's going to be Alexander Newton and Cameron Edwards who will lead the field away, and Edwards has got to be careful here not to be too far ahead of Newton when the green flag is taken. Oh, actually, there's a safety car. The start is going to be under yellow, so these guys are not going to make their way into race conditions. They're going to have to sort themselves out in terms of position here. The green flag does fly, but thanks to that incident on the formation lap, we are going to have a start under yellow. Manual safety car will be making its way to the end of pit lane momentarily. Actually, Keegan Sutton-Baker has only just left the pit box. He's going to come out just behind the rest of the field. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Are they going to let him through to the front? Looks like Keegan has actually broken the pit lane speed limit. He'll get his black flags cleared, obviously, by race control, but wanting to try and get the pace car up to the front of the field as soon as possible.
Yes, I think the reason the safety car wasn't able to pick up the leaders there will be the iRacing missed start procedure, given that with the manual safety car, you wouldn't send it out to take its grid spot. So they'll have to indeed make room for the 00 Porsche Cayman GT4 to slip and slide its way on through to the front. But yeah, this now does shake things up a bit, as there was other issues somewhere further on back down the field heading out of Canada Corner as well. So it's been an incredibly unexpectedly chaotic opening lap here, as indeed safety car's trying to make its way through, but needs some space to make sure it gets done cleanly. I think the expectation is the guys here need to get into single file, make a clean path for the safety car as we jump on board with Keegan Sutton-Baker. There we go. Now the path is cleared. Don't pull out, folks. Keep it nice and easy, and the 00 machine can take the front of the field down here into turn number 5. All right. So,
okay.
Get the field formed back up once again in grid positions and try again at the race start.
Indeed. Well, that's there's a first time for everything, and that is the first time that we've had a big incident on the formation lap in this series. So I guess it's good that it happened at a place like Road America, where it's not always tight quarters all the way around. I think if the incident for Anthony Jewell had happened in the kink, then it would have been quite the terrible occurrence. Speaking of Anthony Jewell, he's managed to get his wheel hooked back up and he's made his way back out on the circuit, but he is going to be starting in last place just behind Clint Harvey.
Yeah, so drops him well out of contention here, down from starting in P number 9 all the way to P31 as a result of that. But it's good to see he is back out on track at least. And yeah, the million-dollar question of the cars who got entangled with the stricken Jewel there as they came into the carousel, who's picked up meaningful amounts of damage, if any. I can see the number 7 of Tyson Broad does have a bit of damage to the front right corner of his car, and that will be one to watch on, but he will have a fast repair to use if he thinks the damage needs to be cleaned up in the pit stop. And also critically here, as the time ticks away here under this safety car lap, we're not far away from the compulsory pit window opening, so potentially drivers will be able to come down the lane at the end of the first flying lap here, Reese, if they reckon they can get the fuel in the car to make it around the circuit. That will be an option on the cards, as we're only a minute and a half from that pit window opening, and they're yet to get back up to racing speed here.
It remains to be seen how long the safety car is going to stay out here. Remember, it was only for a lap in race 1. It looks like the pace car is indeed pulling away, so we are going to get our race start here, and it doesn't look like they will be able to get it started until the 35 minutes remaining mark has passed. So back to double file then. Alexander Newton versus Cameron Edwards. Keegan Sutton-Baker enters the pit lane just up ahead. You see him in the distance there. Now, when are they going to go is the big question. Newton going to wait until the green flag is called by race control, potentially. The uphill start here is always a difficult one. And there we go. As they pass by the access road, Alexander Newton gets it going. Cameron Edwards is going to be under attack here from Kyle Ridley for second place on the road. Green flag officially flies, and we are racing in Southern Cross Esports. Very late on the brakes for Chris Noble as he snatches third place away. That is huge, big incident there off the circuit. That is Gianni Lutsu, the championship leader and winner of race one.
Track
That's going to be a
turn
pile up.
one.
That is going to be a pile up. That is a traffic. Well, race control's going to be busy today, aren't they? I think the safety car's going to be coming back out.
Oh, it has to be, surely. The pit window opens as a result of this. Gianni Lutsu gets entangled, and he's got some serious... Gianni Lutsu's car is crab walking its way back through turn 3. He's coming down the lane. He'll have to get it fixed up here as these guys try and sort themselves out, and back out comes the safety car.
Oh, man. Keegan Sutton-Baker had only just come in. He barely got time to get a sip of a cup of tea or something like that. But now he's back out, and... man, what a dramatic night this has been. So Neil Woodburn came together with Ross Thalen at the exit of turn 1. That's what started all of this. We'll see what happened to Lutsu first, though. Lutsu got tapped wide there. Alexani coming together, and yeah.
Sean McNamara as well.
Yes.
Wide turn 1 is what sent out Lutsu, and then, yeah, oh my goodness, off the exit of turn 2 and just instant track blockage. And I don't think Lutsu's car was bent at this point. He tries to find a way through, but he's trying to get through there at the back of the shot. And I think he picks the damage up, bumping off of there, and that contact to the right rear there. As we jump on board with the number 6 of Justin McLean, who's just comes into a scene of carnage. You can just see he's being smashed from the rear as they come in. Pit lane is confirmed open by race control, so compulsory stops can now be taken, Reese. The question is, who's going to get their service done here nice and early? Pardon me, under safety cars on board with your championship leader. Wide at turn 1 thanks to the contact. I think at this point the car is still okay. And then you watch here, he's ultra cautious about this.
Trying to pick his way through, but then you'll see here as he comes back. Oh, that is unfortunate. That was contact with his teammate, Anthony Jewell, that played a part in that. Very unfortunate for the Racecraft Simulations boys, and you can see that the damage is already there for Gianni Lutsu. Just the wrong slight bit of contact to the right rear, and that has put the suspension geometry completely out of whack. As we go back to live pictures, Lutsu's struggling to keep control of his car, but we have a raft of people coming into the pit lane. Carl Ridley, Mike Pepper, Tyson Broad, Alex Zarni, Craig Spencer, Ashley Dodgson, Trevor Hearn, Dean Hunt, they all come in. We'll see if Nathaniel Coburn follows them in. He will indeed. I would say that everyone at the rear of the field would fancy a chance at coming in here. Top 10 running at the moment, you can see on the timing tower, have not come into the lane just yet.
Right, so a bit of a chaos and confusion as well currently out in circuit race. Safety car has actually towed itself back to pit lane, which means that we don't actually have the safety car on circuit. The race leader of Alexander Newton is going to have to function as the de facto safety car here at the moment as your drivers make their way off the pit lane. And the first man off the lane with 4 tyres change is going to be Carl Ridley in the number 27 machine. He's currently in 14th place in the queue. Tyson Broad, second off the lane, beats Mike Pepper by about a second in the box. So that's critical for a championship situation here, of course, as more drivers are coming to the pit lane now. And we'll wait to see the damage. I think Gianni Lutz has been given a bit of a lifeline here. Yes, he's a long way behind Tyson Broad, Reese, but with a number of drivers who have opted to stay out of the pits. 13 cars yet to take in compulsory service. Lutzu will get those spots back over the course of the race as they come to the pit lane under surely green flag conditions, unless they come to the pits in the next lap or so. Your race leader is coming into the final turn currently. Will he opt to take to the pit lane? Yes, he will. Yep. Number 13 is going to come to the pits, and I will admit there's a lot of confusion out here as to what the play is. Interesting enough. There we go. Cameron Edwards staying out and will take the lead of the race. He is going to get picked up by the safety car here, if I'm not mistaken. No, apologies. He's not going to be picked up by the safety car. Yeah, there's still no safety car out on circuit at the moment. And
Wow, there's plenty of people suffering big issues still. Michael Thompson has suffered something out there, and he is really struggling to maintain control of his car, even as he's under 30 kilometers per hour. He's currently on the inside of turn 8 there. You can see that, oh, the suspension of that thing is destroyed. Look at how much lock he's having to put on just to go in a straight line.
Yeah, that is, well, that's going to make life the most miserable crawl back to the lane for the 222 machine. And, well, the answer is to, what's up? Ray Oliver in the 224 has been designated the interim safety car. So that helps solve that issue. And so now the field makes their way up to join the queue. And it's now down to 6 cars yet to pit for their compulsory service. And, well, reading through the list, Kyle Ridley, leader of those who have pitted, followed by Tyson Broad, Alexander Newton, Mike Pepper, Chris Noble, Ryan Howe, Alex Zani, Brody Watts, Craig Spencer, and Joe Capone, I believe, would make that 10 cars there in a line. Gianni Lutsu down in 26th outright, and you take away the top 6, his 20th place on the road with his pit stop now done a long way back as a result of all of that. And in fact, currently a lap down apparently on the race leaders. Yeah, he's lost a lap to the leaders in all of this.
Well, I can't make head or tail of any of this, Dan. It's been an incredibly chaotic 11.5 minutes of this race so far. We are now half an hour remaining, and we have yet to get a full proper lap of racing in. I'm amazed at what's going on here as they pass by the stricken. I think that is Michael Thompson coming on the way into the carousel. So Ray Oliver here. He did not take to the grid initially, but has taken up interim safety car duties as a result of Keegan Sutton-Baker towing back to pit lane at pit exit. And so the tow time, I think, for that car has gotten in the way of getting a proper run in. There's Michael Thompson. My apologies. There was yet another stricken car on the way into the carousel.
It's Justin McLean in the number 6 entry, and I don't think so much stricken as more a bit of our confusion as to who the net race leader was and where everyone needed to be, and so had to pull it over and rejoin the queue in the appropriate place. Question is, are we going to get a chance to go racing here now? We're inside 27. We're going to be inside 27 minutes at the end of this one here. We are going green at the end of this lap race. So after 3 or 2 attempts at a race start, we are going to finally get this one underway here to the 5th lap officially at the start of this one. But it's all kinds of messed up. There's a lot of lap cars in between the race leaders who are yet to pit and those who have pitted. It's going to make for a very chaotic opening couple of laps here, I have to say, because Kyle Ridley is P7 on the timing sheets, but he's got, let's have a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lapped cars in amongst him and the drivers ahead who he's going to be racing for position on track. So Oliver takes the car back to the pit lane. Reese, we finally get ready to get this one back underway. 3rd attempt at a race restart, and Cameron Edwards is green right off the final turn. We get this race underway finally as they come up the hill.
So Cameron Edwards and Michael Brennan. Actually, Clint Harvey here is just up behind him, but Harvey, it seems, is a lap down, I think. And yep, still going for the inside of Edwards on the way into turn 1, and they make a little bit of contact on the exit. Harvey definitely wants to unlap himself here and get his race underway. Edwards backs off and lets him go, but Harvey goes deep into turn 3, and this is exactly the kind of situation that both of these drivers want to avoid. There's Michael Brennan we're riding on board with in car 89. Side by side, your race leader is on the right, and your 23rd place car on the left. So into turn 5 they go. Harvey ahead once again. Edwards now will have to put the defense on here. Top two have broken free for the time being. Sean McNamara still out there, having not pitted. And we'll have a look at that side-by-side action on the way into turn 5. It's Ryan Howe and Chris Noble, the teammates there, trying to fight their way past 4th place John Lee, who's still carrying quite a bit of damage from earlier incidents, and got to be careful there as Alex Zani and Brody Watts make their way past him. On board now with Michael Brennan as he chases down Cameron Edwards for the race lead. Gets into the grass a little bit on the exit of the carousel. You want to avoid that, and through the kink they come. As clean as you like. Well, we'll have to wait a little bit longer to see the real moves start to be made here. Can Clint Harvey break away from these guys is the question. They're going to have his draft, and I think Cameron Edwards will see that as a bit of a benefit actually in his fight. Tyson Broad you saw flitting by, and we see the rest of the drivers that have already taken their mandatory pit stop making their way through. The 47 of Dean Hunt and Trevor Hearn just up behind him here. Hearn taking 2 visits to the pits under that caution period. The first time he came in was to get his meatball flag cleared and get the fast repair done. The second time was to get his pit stop done. And there's a little bit of drama here now on the exit of the final corner. Where do you go? Dean Hunt having to stick to the inside with a little bit of a compromised exit here. And they got drivers trying to find their way through behind them. Ben Braja is going to be in a world of hurt here if Nathaniel Coburn overshoots turn 1. And into turn 1 they go. And it looks like no big incidents on the entry at least, but Coburn has to check up a bit because Braja was still there on the outside. McNamara, meanwhile, chasing down Brennan here and almost going for it coming into turn 5, but elected to keep himself behind for the time being.
Someone's gone deep at turn 5. 166 of Ross Thallon, one of our lapped cars, now having to negotiate a rejoin at some point. No, he's going to pull over apparently and just tows the car back to the pit lane. There and done. Lock up into the corner for him. I don't believe was anything else about it, but well, I'm just watching. It's absolute bedlam here on track as we're checking out a virtual racing school replay of Craig Spencer into turn 5. He goes in deep under brakes and locks up as well. And there's the parked car of Fallon just in the background of shot there. And well, that was looking a little bit interesting there for pardon me, who was that we were just looking at there? Goodness, apparently we had a massive blank. Craig in the exit of the corner there. And that would give him a little bit of a fright. Back to live pitches though, and curious to note, the guys who have come to the pits under the safety cars and cleared their compulsory service, they're fuel saving, and they're fuel saving quite hard.
So they weren't quite able to top it up, as that's a change for the effective lead on replay. Tyson Broad making his way past Kyle Ridley and into 4th place. Now they'll likely want to keep cars ahead of them here so that they can get the benefit of the slipstream and keep up their lap pace, but also afford to lift off into the braking zones. They weren't able to put too much fuel into the cars under that mandatory pit stop. Of course, tyre change is the only thing that's mandatory. Bump draft between the teammates. That's Howe and Noble there trying to make their way past Mike Pepper. Noble gets in ahead of Pepper, and Ryan Howe will try and line up the exit, and Pepper once again majorly defensive on the way into turn 3. Pepper's been given a nice free kick, I think, here, thanks to those caution periods. We thought that he would be out, but oh dear, I've just seen a big issue for Ben Braja, and that was at turn 3. Yep, he absolutely sent it over the grass. The rear end just broke free and was very lucky not to clean up the number 75 of David Hughes here. Have a look at that. Ugh, so close.
So close again. Trouble for Justin McLean. A penalty from race control, but I think I actually saw him immediately tow back the car to the pits, and yeah, that checks out based on what I'm seeing on my timing. So another car disappears from the front of the field as the fight for P1 is on. Sean McNamara wants that lead off Cam Edwards, but well, they've only got 6 odd seconds up the road from your net race leader in Tyson Broad. So they're going as hard as they can, but unless there's another safety car that forces the field to slow down, these guys here, unfortunately, haven't quite played the strategy card ideally. The only thing they have in their hands at the moment is the fact that your guys who have pitted are fuel saving to make it home at this stage. But they're not in much pressure. In fact, a lot of those guys have spaced out a bit, at least when it comes to Tyson Broad. He's actually spaced out from the rest of the train behind him. Kyle Ridley's got maybe a second at best, and then it's Alexander Newton all the way back to Mike Pepper in basically an unbroken chain of near tenses. There we go, side by side, almost there into turn one. As there's a car parked on the inside. John Lee in the 33 is just off the racing line, but that was almost an incident there between your top two as they thought about side by side. We've got side by side here. They're going to have to be careful. That car is still parked on the inside of the racing line. It's Craig Spencer up the inside of Trevor Hearn. They get through there unscathed and no change of position there, but oh boy, John needs to be given permission to get that car out of there if he wants a tow. He's still sitting there, Reese.
Yeah, he still is. Got to be careful on the way into turn one, everybody. Well, we ride on board here with Ryan Howe. He's got Alexander Newton, Brody Watts, and Alex Zani up behind him. Alex going to try up the inside here of Brody, but looks like Watts, with a little bit more momentum into the turn there, will try to hold the position around the outside. And big defensive moves here from Ryan Howe, and almost makes contact there with Alexander Newton, your pole sitter for this race. Manages to break free of it all though, and it's still side by side between Zani and Watts. Brody is having a lot of trouble finding his way past Alec at the moment. Well, we'll keep our eye on what the fuel numbers will potentially be for these drivers who have already pitted. Tyson Broad, as you mentioned, Dan, has been putting the hammer down, and he's trying to catch up to Brendan McNamara and Edwards here at the front of the field. There is Edwards, there is McNamara, and they've also got Gianni Lutsu there with them. Lutsu currently down the field by some margin.
Currently in 22nd place is Lutsu, and still a lap down as a result of having to limp it back to the pits and the safety car confusion there. Broad is still fuel saving quite aggressively here, Reece, and he's actually taking advantage of the fact he's got 3 lap cars in Neil Woodburn, Clint Harvey, and Jesse Butler directly ahead of him here. Is on for the lead once more towards turn one we go. Track is clear finally, so Joel McNamara, as we're right on board with the 951, has a clear shot on the inside of turn one. Late on the brakes up the inside, and he gets that car planted quite nicely. Race lead now in his hands there as he heads towards turn number 3. And well, Lutsu wants on through, but he's going to play the patient game as meanwhile Trevor Hearn and Joe Capone are going at it for P12 into turn 1, and Capone tries to defend it around the outside. He is not able to hang on there. In fact, correction, that's actually... No, that is a pass, pardon me. It was just a pass quite a bit early on the way down towards turn 1. There is, trouble for one of the NG Motorsport cars on the exit of the turn 1 there. And the man in question...
Spencer. And it looks like...
Oh dear, yep.
Majorly unsettled.
And then straight across the gravel on the virtual racing score replay to the tyres. And he says that's my day done here, boys. And just too late on the brakes, Reece, and as a result...
Offline as well.
Oh yeah, indeed. Good point to make there. Should have been rubber down there to help, but just not able to do anything at that point. Trying to come in that deep into the corner.
Well, things have calmed down just a little bit, so we can talk briefly about how this works in terms of the championship, because with Gianni Lutsu still down in 22nd, a lap down on your leaders, that means that there's a big point swing for Tyson Broad at the moment, who's still working his way through that lap traffic and working off the slipstream to save some fuel. So there could be a change for the championship lead out of this. We're not too sure. It's looking like John Lee, who we saw parked on the side of the road on the way into turn 1, had a technical issue. He has pressed the Alt F4 key combination and exited the server that way. The battling is still going on here for 6th though. It's effective 3rd at the moment. Ryan Howe, Chris Noble and Alex Zani. And Zani has been able to gap Brody Watts a little bit since the last time we checked in with them.
Yeah, it's a good point to make indeed as they make their way down towards turn number 1. I'm continuing to track your net race leader, Tyson Broad. He's just gone out of shot there down the hill out of turn 1. He's no longer fuel saving, but he's also lost all the cars that he had the free tow off of. The only car that was in that group of lap cars circulating on track is Jesse Butler, and he's a good second and a half up the road from the number 7 machine. But whether this means that Ford has saved enough fuel at this point, no, he's lifting down into turn 5 still. He just needs to find whatever advantage he can get to catch up to Butler and try and get on the rear of it. Is up the inside of Newton, looks Mike Pepper, but not able to get it done there at turn 5. Reese will have to tuck in and try again. Another time is around to the exit of turn 6. McNamara's gone around for a pit the race lead. And unfortunately, that sends him tumbling down the order as the drivers come on past, having filled their way up. And they're actually going to come into this Newton and Pepper fight here. And as a result, Newton a bit blocked up as a result through the hurry downs, but able to get through. Actually, hip checks. Pardon me. No, Michael Brennan, apologies, in the 89 machine has had a spin in P3 by himself. Apologies there to Sean. That's an unforced error from the 89, who was, I think, on his own there at that point of the race. Has he been given? Yeah, all by himself up through turn 6. Race on the replay from Virtual Racing School, and around he goes.
Yeah, that's such a shame. You know, you get on the power. The car was already a little unsettled as he came onto the curb, but the grass just put paid to it completely. Now Brennan's having to try and make room for Trevor Hearn. And Hearn goes deep into Canada corner, lets him back by. This race has been nothing short of chaotic. We've got 14 minutes to go, but I think it's going to be the longest 14 minutes any of these drivers has experienced. They've been through everything in this one.
Sounds like it's been an absolute battle. Brennan finally brings his car to the pit lane. That will leave us with 2 drivers who owe us a pit stop, and just over 8 minutes left to get it done. Here they are, circulating at the front of your field, and still keeping Gianni Luzzu 1 lap down in 21st place now, apologies, as drivers disconnecting. And, well, in addition to disconnecting, just a little addendum that John Lee actually given a disqualification by race control. So something either there or just as requested to try and get that car off the track as fast as possible, perhaps. Well, it's an interesting one at this point here. Is there we had side by side into turn 5, side by side at turn 6 as well for the race lead. McNamara fending off Edwards up the inside, so through the hurry downs they go, and Gianni Luzzu, well, he's doing the right thing as the lap car in this situation. He probably knows he could probably get ahead of these two and put himself on the lead lap before they pit, but he's happy to sit behind and let them carry him through here at this point. But, well, their current latest pace actually is pretty good. They're some of the fastest cars, if not the fastest cars on the track last time around here in the 202s. Dyson Broad having to fuel save, still lapping in the low 203s and losing a little bit of time as a result, as he's not in the tow of the remaining lap car of Jesse Butler, who's still about a second and a half up the road, as side by side into the Canada corner, as they need to stop getting distracted. And Edwards tries, he's not able to get through though. And again, Lutzu continues to play rear guard as further on down the pack. The 1-2-2 of Chris Noble up the inside of Alexani. That is P5 in the hands of the second of the Alpha Racing Team cars. Next target for him is to chase down his teammate, Ryan Howe, who's just a second and a half up the road in the 1-2-5 machine. But Zani nearly into the rear there, Reese, at the final turn. He's going to keep the pressure on Noble here as they make their way up the hill to turn 1 once again.
This has been a bit of a baptism of fire for Noble and Howe, hasn't it? And Noble definitely, he's got 2 cars on his tail. Brody Watts still there, trying to find his way past Alex Zani, and defensive into the first turn here for Chris Noble. He gives Zani room on the outside of turn 1 and doing exactly the right thing there. Noble, a very experienced and quite clean racer, so looks like that's sorted it out very nicely. But this has brought Kyle Ridley back into the fold here. It's now a 4-way battle for 5th place on track and effective 3rd. And there's a little bit of a bump draft there as Zani tries his best to protect himself from Brody Watts. And Watts, my goodness, okay, take it easy, boys. There we go. It looks like Watts will have gotten the position there, but maybe a slight bit of contact involved in that one. And I wanted to touch on something with Gianni Lutsu just briefly. He did mention, Dan, that he was doing the right thing here, sticking behind the two race leaders. Well, he also doesn't have much to gain if he tries to unlap himself. He has got about 20 seconds ahead to Nathaniel Coburn, and it's going to be more with a mistake like that.
That's an unexpected error there. Lapse of concentration, perhaps, from the driver of the number 4 around the exit of the carousel, but able to recover that one without too much more drama there, which is definitely what hits in his good books. And we check in once again with the train of cars racing over P5 on back. Ryan Howe, as a result of all this, is skipping away in 4th place, not pressured by all of us behind, and looking to try and bridge the gap to Tyson Board, who's still fuel saving up in P3 and still the net race leader, as McNamara brings it onto the pits with just under 5 minutes left on the compulsory pit window. And so that leaves us with Cameron Edwards yet to stop in this race. Question is, how long does Edwards go for here? Because he'll want to put the fresh tyres on soon, you would think, get some benefit from them, but clearly looking for a gap in the pits, or maybe even just trying to stretch his fuel here and just do the tyre change only rather than fill up, as we're on board with Trevor Hearn here into turn 1. A little bit of a lift, stays in behind Alex Newton as Newton runs wide though through the corner. That's going to be very vulnerable into turn 3 here, Reese, and easy job done for Hearn in the 949 machine at the next corner there.
Take a breath. Goodness gracious. Zani very close to losing it there, but nice car control over the grass. But unfortunately for him, that is the position finally lost to Brody Watts. So we'll check out now Ryan Howe, who's caught up to Tyson Broad here. And actually, that's really interesting to see that Howe has managed to put on some great lap times in the last couple of laps. He took 7/10 out of Tyson Broad on the previous lap. So Ryan's definitely gelling with the car here in the latter stages of the second race. Don't forget, fuel is a bit of a question mark for these drivers. We're seeing that Ashley Dodgson is coming in the pits for a second time. We've gotten word from our director that he was involved in an incident, so I get the feeling that it might be heavy damage there for the 88 of Dodgson. Not too sure though.
Yeah, we'll see Dodgson in the pits currently and up on the jack, so full service it seems, despite there not being a need Dodgson to do so here.
And he's still had his fast repair left. It looks like he's decided to take it.
Yeah, but that also tyres going on the car, it seems. And
there goes Edwards.
Yep, so race leader into the pits, and now it's on between Tyson Board and Ryan Howe. And I think important to note here, Reese, the fact that Ryan Howe has a lap of extra fuel. Came down the pits 1 lap later than Tyson Broad did. Broad's going to go defensive into turn 1 here, but if he needs to fuel save, feels like this is going to be a risky gamble. Car coming out of the pits for good measure directly in front. Is that Dodgson? It actually is going to be 88 of Dodgson right out of turn 1 on the headlights of the race leaders as a result. They want to clear this traffic ASAP, but if I'm Tyson Broad, I'm thinking here maybe you drop back into P2, use Howe to be the fuel saving device so you don't lose time to the guys behind, because they will catch if they think they're good on fuel. And looking at the last lap time to 3.3 for Tyson Boyd, he's still fuel saving here, and he uses Dodgson as a bit of a roadblock for Howe, but he's going to go up the inside in the 125 machine and take the race lead here. But now it's up to Broad, just stay in behind, fuel save in the toe, get the benefit of the straight line speed into the corners now, and you should be home free as long as you can ride with here. And given he got pole position for race 1, we know he's got 1 lap pace. It's as long as he's looked after the car through this point onwards. McNamara's gone through ahead of Cam Edwards, who's now just come out of the pit lane, down to 14th and 15th for them there, Reese. Fortunately, going long in this race, not pitting with the safety cars, has of course hurt them strategy-wise at this point as we come into the final couple of minutes of this one here.
Yep, unfortunate there. And we've received news that the 47 of Dean Hunt has gone around at turn 1. Happened a few moments ago. It looks like the rear's just locked for him on the way into the first corner here. And he's now back down into 13th place. Mindset down under esports, not having the best of days out there. Meanwhile, Brody Watts Still having to defend here from Alex Zani, but he's caught up to Chris Noble now, and is going to try and pressure him for third on the podium. Tell you what, it's a really good first round here for the teammates of Noble and Howe on their debut in this series. If they can get both cars onto the podium, that would be a fantastic result, and that's where they are at the moment. Oh dear, that is the furthest I've ever seen anyone go into the gravel trap at Canada Corner without finding the tyres. Ben Braja having a few issues there, as up the inside goes Brodie Watts on Chris Noble. Will he be successful? Will he be able to pull the move off? Big question there. He's going to slot back in behind on the way into turn 3. Then line was compromised on the way out of turn 1. So it makes sense that he would try and have another go here down the back stretch. What will he be able to do into turn 5? Already a big defensive line happening here from Chris Noble. He doesn't want to give anything more to Brodie Watts than he needs to, as pit window is now closed. There is some contact there in the braking zone, and Zani locks up on the way through. They're still side by side coming up to turn 6. Who's going to win this fight? Brodie obviously wanting to get his car onto the podium. Noble goes deep. Will Watts be able to sweep around the outside? Harry Downs looks like he will, and it looks like Noble just decided to lift out of it. I think he was just saying, look, okay, I don't want any more drama, mate. You can have this one.
Yeah, these guys have been going back and forth for quite a few laps now, and that's the second time I think Brodie Watts has attempted to go around the outside at turn 5. This time able to make it stick, although it took him a couple of extra turns to get the job done there. And as they make their way out of the carousel, line themselves up in a row, 3rd through 6th here as we look at Trevor Hearn at the back of the group. And well, these guys here, I don't think they're catching the two at the front, because the gap between your race leader and P3 is up to 5.5 seconds. The scrapping here is, of course, opening the door to make it a two-way fight at the end of the race for that top step in race 2 tonight. But, well, there's plenty of other action on track here as Joe Capone is trying to fend off Mike Pepper for P9. We'll see them there in the Canada Corner for a moment, as then we check back in with the fight for P3 as, well, Noble looking nice and close here as someone down on the pit lane for a second time.
Zani.
Alex Zani coming to the pits after a 13-lap stint.
Might he not have what it takes?
Now, he's been in that battle group most of this race. Has he? I wonder if he's been caught up and consumed in the battle here and just forgotten to fuel save. And this is now obviously opens questions. Pardon me, I need to cough again.
All good. Take your time, mate. Obviously, there's a few things going around. It's quite cold in Australia at the moment. Fortunately, I've managed to avoid the worst of it. I hope that that continues. But yeah, Zani, is entirely possible that he's had some big issues there fuel saving. David Hughes, who we saw upside down out of turn 1 to bring the safety car out, managing to make his way back into the pits for a second time himself. I don't think he has the fuel to make it to the end. Still gaining a lot of positions here, but he will fall outside of the top 12 as a result of that. Checking back in here with Brodie Watts and Chris Noble. Chris still has a chance here with 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go. There's still half a chance he could finish on the podium. If there's trouble for Watts, he'll definitely be using the draft there to save a bit of fuel himself.
Yeah, this will be crucial. These guys, I think, are going to be okay. They're that 1 lap longer than Tyson Broad, who might be the remaining driver with a big question mark on him. He's still saving in behind Ryan Howe for the race lead, but he's keeping Howe very honest through the corners, so able to capitalize on maybe being a little bit more gentle on the car on the way into the turns and getting the slipstream on the way through these longest straights here. Now into the final lap. Does Tyson Broad have enough fuel left in this car to go on the attack for the final lap? Of course, finishing second is more important at this stage for him than having a gamble on the race win and losing out big time. They're going to take the white flag here for a 17-lap race in the feature event. And now 6.5 kilometers of road, 4 miles if you're feeling a bit old-fashioned and going the Imperial units through turn 1. Your leaders go, Reese, nice and even there. But again, I've been watching these two for the past couple of laps. Broad is just looking that little bit more composed on corner entry and corner exit, and as a result, even though he's been fuel saving the entire time, the slipstream and the corner exits are helping him out massively and keeping Howe nice and, well, keeping Howe under a lot of pressure fastest Sector 1 in the race goes to Tyson Broad here on the final lap, but he's still lifting and coasting into turn 5 here.
Yeah, well, he's going to have some chances here if he can save a bit of fuel. Howe goes a bit deep there. Oh, dear. That's going to make him on the defensive now into turn 6. Narrows up the line. Will Broad be able to line him up through Hurry Downs? Defensive once again from Ryan Howe. This is going to be a fantastic battle for the race victory if they can manage to pull this off. Howe still trying his best to keep Tyson Broad behind him. They're weaving across the track every which way whenever they're in a straight line. Now here is where the money will be made. The run out of the kink on the way down to Canada Corner. This is going to be quite the interesting one because I don't know if Tyson Broad has the amount of fuel in the car that he needs. I don't know if Howe has the amount of fuel he needs, but Broad picking up the slipstream. Oh, there's going to be some traffic here. Whoa, take it easy. That was Jesse Butler there, and Broad not able to make his way by at Canada Corner. He's probably going to have one final dive at the last turn here. Can Ryan Howe take a win on his debut in this series? Oh, the 122 in the wall, but Howe is going to be ahead on the way into the first turn, into the final turn, sorry. And out of the final corner he comes. The Motum Simulation sponsored drivers here getting on to the top step of the podium. Ryan Howe is going to win race 2. Tyson Broad will finish a very strong second. That will keep his championship dreams alive. And Brodie Watts is going to hold on to finish in 3rd. Trevor Hearn was able to make his way past Chris Noble at the end, as was Kyle Ridley. Something happened to Noble on the final lap.
That was the contact with Brodie Watts at Canada Corner that we picked up on screen there, Reese. The replay of that incident thanks to Virtual Racing. So let's have a look at how it's come on, well, how unfolded, I should say, through the kink, looking for the inside. Watts gets there just in time to cover it off, side by side into the corner, and then there's going to be a bit of a squeeze. Bump once, bump twice, and yeah, they both go into the gravel as a result.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Noble, destination tyres was where his car would go. Let's have a look at it again from a different angle here. And have they met in the middle, or is it... okay, from that angle, that's not looking too good there for Brodie Watts, potentially a little bit too aggressive and squeezing back over on the defense.
Maybe, but you did see that they did make a bit of side-by-side contact on the way into the braking zone. Maybe a little bit of a squeeze, but the contact was really started there with Noble having to recover his car, and the trajectory put him back into Watts. I don't know. I might still hold Brodie Watts a bit more responsible for that. He could have afforded to give Noble a bit more room on the outside, but who knows. Have a look at this, meanwhile. Franz Esterbauer in the Perth Fork Trucks entry. He's going to gain 10 spots here to finish in 15th place, it seems. So really good job there from Franz to survive all of the drama and all of the carnage that we've seen tonight. Nathaniel Coburn, meanwhile, pretty much any time we've seen him, he was in some kind of incident, but he's managed to come home there in 17th. My goodness. But Ryan Howe going to be a very happy man as we make our way on to the official results from race 2. Howe and Broad, your top two. 2/10 separating them at the end. Brodie Watts, a little bit of controversy on the final lap, but he is going to get 3rd on the road with Trevor Hearn and Kyle Ridley rounding out the top 5. Alex Newton's going to finish in 6th. Not bad considering he started from pole, with Chris Noble coming home in 7th after a trip into the tyres on the last lap. Joe Capone is going to gain the most places here, up 13 spots. Mike Pepper finishes in 9th, and Sean McNamara finishes where he started in 10th, one of the few drivers to not pit under the second safety car.
That place tonight on the road is going to go to Cameron Edwards, the next one of those drivers to opt to stay out for the long phase of that race there under green. Unfortunately, it costs him with the pit stop as a result. Likewise for Michael Brennan, unfortunately compounded by the error out of turn 6 before his pit stop towards the end of that race. He will end up down in 12th place there ahead of Kirby Watts in 13th, who sneaks across the line, bare 10th between him and Dean Hunt there for those 2 spots, with Franz Esterbauer next in 15th, with David Hughes and Nathaniel Colburn finishing the race there in 16th and 17th, the last drivers on the lead lap as well. And then unfortunately we get into the massive group of drivers who unfortunately all came unstuck one way or another in this one tonight. Ben Breyer there in 18th place ahead of Gianni Lutz, who, well, might just have lost the championship lead from that one there. As a result of that, coming home 19th in a lap down ahead of Jesse Butler there in 20th there. Reese, and well, a couple more drivers. I'll leave you to read through the damage list there with 29 drivers to report.
Yeah, indeed. Dodgson, Harvey, Woodburn, all finishing a lap down. Alex Zani, unfortunately, 2 laps down, having to come in for another pit stop. Michael Thompson, some heavy damage suffered from him. Same could be said for Craig Spencer, Justin McLean, Ross Thalen, and Anthony Jewell, all retiring from that one. And Ray Oliver did make an appearance on track as the interim safety car, so he is classified on the board. Well then, that's going to bring to an end proceedings for the race, but we do have our drivers in here for interviews. Tyson Broad is going to be the first that we talk to here. Second on the road in race 2, Tyson. 5th in race 1, and a little bit of a spirited defense from your championship rival's teammate there in race 1. It was a bit of a rough night for you, all things considered.
Yeah, it was. I mean, race 1, well, qualifying actually went well. I got pole. With a good lap, and then yeah, race 1, first time into turn 5, just overcooked it and ran wide and got myself back into 4th, which then kicked off that whole incident with Jewel in race 1, and then it was sort of just a fight back for them from there.
Yeah, and it was a very good fight back for you, coming back into 5th. Well, just take us through what happened from a driver's perspective at the start of race 2, because we were having trouble making sense of what was happening on the broadcast. How was it for you guys?
Yeah, well, Jules' wheel disconnected on the warm-up lap, which kind of triggered all that off. So yeah, obviously then that manual start, and then yeah, obviously all the chaos that ensued, which then enabled the pit window to open under safety car. And as soon as I saw that, it was just immediately dive into the pits and trying, because I knew from Okayama that would obviously help my strategy, and it did in the end.
Yeah, indeed it did. Well, what are your thoughts on the battle with Ryan Howe at the end? It was certainly a scintillating fight between you two. If it weren't for that little bit of traffic, we might have seen a grandstand finish.
Yeah, well, from that safety car restart, I had to save fuel, because if I didn't save fuel, I would have ran out with a lap to go. And yeah, sort of saving fuel, and I went for 2 quick laps in the middle bit of the stint, which kind of almost set up, because then I had to save that fuel back again, which obviously enabled Ryan to catch up, and then I basically let him go to try and save a bit of fuel, and then I saw over the line to start the final lap that I was good for fuel, so then it was just battle to the end, but obviously ran out of laps.
Indeed you did, but still, 2nd place on the road, and that has brought you well in touch with the championship lead once again. It's going to be quite an interesting end to the season from here.
Yeah, well, I actually got the point standing in front of me, and I'm actually back in the lead.
Yes.
Which is a nice change, considering the last few rounds hadn't necessarily been going my way in terms of luck. But obviously tonight it was Gianni's turn to get a bit of the bad luck. So yeah, really sets us up nicely for the final 2 rounds of the season.
Well, before we let you go, Tyson, anyone you'd like to thank for your points and your podiums today?
Obviously the series organisers, who put on a fantastic series and had to make best with a weird scenario tonight. Obviously SimSpeed for the broadcast, and also Drop In Motorsports for obviously their support over the last couple of weeks since I've joined, and then all of Drop Their sponsors and the fellow drivers for some great racing.
Oh, that's Tyson Broad there, back into the championship lead after this round at Road America. Next up, Dan Yeaman's going to have a chat to 3rd place in race 2, Brody Watts.
I will indeed. Well, good pace from you once again, generally speaking, all night long, Brody. And yeah, 2nd in qualifying, and able to hang on to that in race 1. But yeah, race 2 all kind of went in a bit of hell of a handbasket there. opted to come down the pits on the second lap of the safety car so the second safety car after the massive pile-up further on back. How were you for fuel there at the end of that second race?
Yeah, I was spluttering over the lines, so I heard a few other complaints as well of people spluttering, and I must have been using too much fuel if I did a lap less than they did. So but yeah, it was a little bit of a bit chaotic at the start there, a little bit of a curveball thrown, and I thought that the safety car was going to come in and I wasn't going to make it that many laps on a tank, so I figured I'd pit a little bit later. But when the safety car was going around for another lap, I figured I'd jump in and get my mandatory stop out of the way, and it paid off, so that's always good.
It does seem to be the case here in Southern Cross Esports Championship Series action that, when the safety car comes out, start of the pit window, it's a good time to get down the pits. Did it change? How much did it change your original plan? Did you, well, more to the point, did you have a plan in mind? So roughly, what was your strategy thoughts coming into that second race about roughly when you would take your pit stop, given the fuel and tyres requirement to get home?
This sort of the track wasn't too bad on the tyres. So some of the other tracks we've done, it's sort of been really tyre limited, but I felt I could really push the tyres right to the end of the stint. Even, my lap times didn't really drop off too much towards the end of the race. So I'd sort of planned on just sort of seeing how the traffic was. If I'd cleared a lot, then I'd be happy to stay out. But if there was something to be gained by having a couple of laps with some free air, I would have definitely pitted in the earlier end of it.
Good to note there. And well, as you said, scrapping really hard there to the end with the Alpha Racing Team boys of Howe, and at one point until he decided to make a run for it up the front, and then with Chris Noble there, along with your teammate Trevor Hearn, as well as other guys there like Ridley and Newton, and at one point Alexani there until he pulled back into the pits for a second time, short on fuel. I guess you guys were putting on a good show for us there, and you guys were hard to separate there for a long part of that race.
Yeah, it's a really difficult track to, with the setup particularly, it's really difficult to pass. It's easy to get alongside, but to get to that, last little bit where you need to, be clearly ahead at the end of the straight, it just doesn't quite happen. So there's a few, passes that were happening in not particularly normal places to be making passes, but it was a real difficult one. It was a shame there's a little bit of contact there going into Canada corner. It's always a disappointing thing to happen, so I haven't had a look at it yet, but hopefully everything's all good. I felt I was holding my line, so
well, at the conclusion of that one there, you sit fourth in the championship provisionally. We can see in the results currently, just in behind Trevor Hearn by about 30 odd points. So chance to fight for P3 in the series here with 2 rounds to go. Thoughts on Spa for the next round in 3 weeks' time?
I think Spa is definitely a track that suits me a little bit more. There was some of the earlier rounds that were the tracks that I was pretty disappointing at. So hopefully I can put a good round together next time out at Spa.
Well, before we let you go, who would you like to thank tonight for the results, Brody?
Thanks to 949 Sim Racing for the lovely paintwork and that sort of thing. I picked it up a bit today, but Trevor for being a pretty good tail gunner.
There we are. Brody Watts, podiums all around, second and third tonight here at Road America.
Indeed, and the next round is going to be at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. You'll be able to catch that on the 24th of August at 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. We'll be there to bring it to you live here on SimSpeed TV. What a fantastic night of racing once again. I should say quite a chaotic night of racing. Moreover, it was very difficult to make sense of some of the stuff that was going on of race 2, but we certainly got plenty of entertaining action out of it, and we hope to continue the entertainment here in the V8 Drive Day Perth Southern Cross Esports Championship, presented, of course, by V8 Drive Day Perth, 24/7 sim services, word of mouth signs, West Australian automotive equipment, modem simulation, and V-Race experience. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Dan Yeaman alongside me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy handling production behind the scenes and bringing you the live pictures. Bye for now, but certainly not forever. We'll see you all through the week here on SimSpeed TV.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no, that's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.